Welcome to Another Chapter podcast with your hosts, Claire and Rebecca. Welcome to Season 3, Chapter 2 of Another Chapter, the podcast. So we are back officially, first proper episode here. Rebecca, how have you been?
Okay, actually I'm just getting over a pretty bad bout of COVID, so apologies if I still sound a bit caught up. But it was nice to have this to look forward to today, actually, because it's been a pretty crappy week.
Yeah.
Got a lot of audio to listen to, though. Got a lot of books to listen to, which is good.
That's good.
Yeah. Silver linings and all that.
But at least you were able for reading. I find that if I'm really sick, I can't read. And then I'm like, this is the only time I have to lie down and do nothing and read a book, but I can't.
So the first few days I wasn't. I literally was just sleeping as much as possible. But then I was just kind of, the little bit of pottering I was doing, I was listening to my audio, and I have an advanced copy of, I presume I could say it's on NetGalley, Catherine Ryan Howard's book that's coming out next year.
And it's good, yeah?
Excellent, yeah, really different, very different, but the premise is great. Basically, she kind of did it based off of, you know, the whole O.J. Simpson case, that like he wrote a book basically saying like, I didn't do it, but if I was guilty, here's what would have happened, essentially. So it's kind of from that point of view of being the ghostwriter for someone who everyone assumes has done this horrific murder but is claiming innocence.
It's such an interesting idea, isn't it? Because like, how would you have all of these details? Suspicious.
Yeah. So very good so far. We're about a third of the way into that. Anyway, how have you been? We're back to school.
Yes, back to school, back to work. First time working with two babas at home, and it is busy, like really, really busy. It's an adjustment for sure, but look, it's nice to get back to a bit of routine too, and you know, go to the bathroom unaccompanied, and you know, like things like that. I appreciate those things in life, I have to say. Which I took for granted pre-children. So yeah, no, it's good, all good. Yeah, I find though that I'm not having as much time to read whatsoever, which it did set a little bit of panic in me. Did set me off a small bit. I was like, oh my God, how am I going to read all of these books that I want to read and need to read? And you know, like when you're not really in the headspace for an audiobook, you know, you find it very hard to listen to it, because I would have always listened to audiobooks in the car. But after the first week or so back, I was like, okay, I think I'm good now. And I'm getting a fair bit listened to in the car on the way to and from work. So that's helping. Yeah.
Yeah. I find in my commute, actually, it's a bit like mood reading. With me, it's mood listening. Some mornings, all I want to do is listen to some serious tunes. I'd be buzzing on the way to work. And then other mornings, again, possibly depending on what I'm listening to, I'm like, as soon as I get into the car, I'm like, put on the audiobook.
Really?
Yeah. It is actually a mood thing with me.
I'm like, I would be quite musical, but I never listen to music on the way to work. Ever.
No?
It's weird. I kind of feel like I need silence to like gear myself up for the day and think through everything that I need to do. Or else I'm listening to an audiobook or something. Or sometimes like affirmations to just kind of get my mood brighter and stuff. Yeah, I find that they help.
But I actually find that's what the music does for me. So I guess it's kind of the affirmation thing where I'm putting on something I know is going to put me in a good mood and set me up for the day.
Yeah.
Because not every audiobook I'm listening to is a vibe. Is a vibe, basically. Yeah. Some of them would be a mood killer, you know, more so than anything else.
Yeah. So, right, we're back. Let's delve into our summer reading. What were your favourite reads of the summer?
Yes. So, like when you said that you were going to ask me this, I straight away went to my Storygraph because my memory is horrendous, and I know I've read certain books, but like I could have read them in January, you know, for all I knew. But there were 5 that stuck out to me. I promise I won't talk for any of them for any kind of an extended period of time. So the first one that stood out for me was Richie Craven's Spirit Level, which is a really, really unusual book. It's kind of, there's magic in it. It's about grief. A guy loses his friend, but then the friend kind of comes back to him in spirit form, or he imagines he is seeing the friend after the friend has passed away. And I went into knowing that much, but that was about it. And I kind of expected it to be one thing, and then it took a whole other turn, which I really enjoyed as well. But very different, very, very funny. Very, very funny. Proper laugh out loud funny in parts. And
good.
Yeah, for a book that is ultimately about dealing with this unimaginable grief, like losing your best friend, it really was like very positive in parts, and like that's a very hard balance, I suppose, to get. So that one, like that book is a contender for like my book of the year. And it's a debut novel by him as well, which is amazing. Yeah, whatever it was, it really, really just stuck with me as so enjoyable, and one that I would recommend, to most people. The next one was Pet by Catherine Chidgey.
Yes.
Which is kind of a psychological thriller, drama, family drama. It has a child as the narrator, so it's from their point of view, and that really adds an extra kind of element, an extra layer to the story, and I suppose the thriller, the psychological aspect of it, which is great. So that was part of our Rebel Readers book club, wasn't it?
Yes. And I actually have to hold my hands up and say that I had voted for the other book, and when this one won, I was like, oh God, I really wanted to read the other book, and I was so engrossed in this. It is a fantastic read.
Brilliant, yeah. And the other book, actually, just honourable mention to that, I read it earlier in the year. It was Remarkable Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. I listened to it in audio, and that is absolutely brilliant as well. So either of those choices would have been well worth it. My next one was a nonfiction, and it's The History of Women in 101 Objects by Annabel Hirsch. And basically it is what it says in the tin. It goes down through history and kind of prehistory and handpicks 101 different objects that kind of describe women and what they were going through at that historical period, how, it might be an object that underscored a particularly important period in women's history, an item that was, maybe championed by women or made for women, for example, specifically. And it, you can really hold it up as this really showcases our history. And I suppose what I liked as well, so the author is German, it's a translated book. She does hold her hand up at the start and say, I am writing this from a particular lens as a woman, from a particular background, of a particular age, from a particular racial group. I am not by any means dismissing any objects from any other place that are not mentioned here. But just this is what is it within the realm of my knowledge and my capability of including. So, I suppose in a way she's kind of excusing the fact that there are probably lots of things that she didn't include that could have from other areas around the world. But it's a fascinating, I actually listened to it, and each chapter, which are all quite, they're all quite short, they're all narrated by different women. Some of them are writers, like Gillian Anderson, for example, the actress is, I think she's the very first one. There's different writers, different well-known women. It's brilliant, excellent on audio. And my last two then are the two romance books, but they were the end of two series that I really, really enjoyed. The first one was Business Casual by B.K. Borison, and the Love Light Farms series is just this gorgeous romance series set on a Christmas tree farm. There's 4 books in total, and it's different friends and family members from within the group. Yeah, it's gorgeous. Like the first book is Stella, she takes over a Christmas tree farm thinking this is going to be amazing. And then it has to kind of find her way as a new business owner and in this kind of new place, and then finds love while she's at it. But again, it's very funny and it's very sweet. It's spicy as well, grand. Not too spicy. So there's that. And then the last one I actually have here, it is Only and Forever. It is the last in the Bergman series by Chloe Leese.
Oh, you love that series.
Like this only came out recently enough, and it's one of those books that I absolutely loved it. Like it was as good as all the rest of them. There are 7 in the series altogether about the Bergman brothers and sisters, but you almost didn't want to read it because it's over. You know, it all along I kind of had more books to get to, so it was lovely. But what I want to show you is I got the Illumicrate special edition set of them, and you can see, if you can see that there, the edges are spraying.
That is brilliant.
So the family,
that is amazing.
The family have this A-frame house, this wooden A-frame house in Washington, I think, and like it's kind of a. They go on holidays there. Some of them end up living there, things like this. And that's what the picture is of. But hilariously, I remember when I was reading the books, the A-frame was mentioned so many times and I ended up having to look it up. Now, it's quite obvious when you see it. It's literally an A-frame to the house. But I wasn't quite sure because, I mean, you don't have houses like that here in Ireland. Well, not really. And I had those set up to take a little video yesterday, and my 7-year-old comes in and he was like, "Oh wow, an A-frame, that's really cool." I was like, how do you know what that is, John? Yeah, he knew what the house was. Yeah, that was my other notable one, because I really loved the book anyway, but also because it finished out probably my favourite romance series ever. So that is 5. And yeah, it was a really good summer of reading. I read a lot of romance, but lots of other really good bits and pieces. But if I had to narrow it down, they would be the ones that I would go for. What about you, Claire?
For me, so I think there was one book that is a standout book that I absolutely adored, and it's You Are Here by David Nichols. It's a really, really beautiful book about my favourite genre in the world, which we have established is not really a genre, but it's about going on a walk. And if anybody follows me on Instagram and reads my posts, they're going to be like, this one is obsessed with walking. Like, I don't get to go out for walks very often anymore, but I love when they go on and they find out something about themselves or whatever, and it's just kind of taken over. I'm like, I need to find all these books that are about walks and I need to read them all.
Yeah.
And that is what this is developed to. But anyway, David Nichols, who also wrote One Day, which was recently adapted into a Netflix series. It's really good. It is about 2 people, Marnie and Michael, and they're kind of forced together when a mutual friend of theirs, Cleo, decides that they're all going to go on a big walk, which is something that Michael enjoys doing all the time because he is a divorced or separated geography teacher. So he loves, the natural landscape and stuff. And he used to set out at the weekends on his own for a walk for a bit of headspace. And she was like, we'll come with you. She's kind of an interfering friend. And she was bringing people that she thought he might gel with, and then she was bringing someone that she thought Marnie might gel with. Now, Marnie is a divorced woman who started self-isolating during COVID and working from home during COVID, and basically never changed that pattern of behaviour. So is quite hermit-like in a way. And yeah, they end up being the only 2 people left on this walk, and their friendship and everything that they go through it just will warm your heart and soul. I just think it was the nicest book I've read in a very long time. It's beautiful, really, really beautiful. So that would be one of mine. And then I think Dominoes by Phoebe McIntosh. Did you read that?
I did. Yeah, really enjoyed it as well. Yeah,
I thought that was a brilliant read. I didn't know what I was getting into when I read it. It was just that I saw Chloe, Nurse Fancy Pants, mention it, that it was an underrated or an underhyped book on Bookstagram. And I was like, I'm going to give this a read because, usually those books are quite good. And it was fantastic. Really, really good. So Dominoes is about a girl, Layla. She's a mixed race 29-year-old, and she's about to marry the love of her life, Andy, but they both have the same surname, and her best friend is a little bit suspicious and kind of tells her to look further into it, and she does, and potentially down the line, there might have been a connection of a racist manner between the two families. So she explores all of this and goes back to her roots, and it's really interesting. I really liked the way that it took something that still is a big movement, Black Lives Matter, but made me understand it in ways that I possibly didn't look at it before. So I really enjoyed that about that one.
There was a lot to learn from that book as well, yeah.
Yeah, there was. And I think, Layla, it mentioned at times that, she pretended that she was white and she got away with it. And then that she didn't take any notice of that until all of this kind of unfolded. And then suddenly she started feeling guilty about the fact that she could pass as being white, whereas her best friend still experienced an awful lot of racism because she had a darker skin tone. And just the innocence behind, like, I think they went out once or twice and they weren't let in, and Layla was like, why? And then her friend Sarah or whatever was like, just drop it, just leave it. So she wasn't actually subjected to the racist behaviour that her best friend was, despite the fact that they both came from the same heritage and lineage and stuff. It was just, yeah, I just thought it was eye-opening and quite educational as well. My third book then, and I'll leave it at this, is Someone in the Attic by Andrea Mara, because I love Andrea. I'll read anything that woman writes. And it is a kind of a scary book in a sense. It's kind of about monsters for grown-ups is the way that I would look at it. Like this thought that there could be someone in your attic, in your house. And it really played on our childhood fears and brought them into adulthood, and the psychological impact that kind of an anticipated monster can have on you. So in this book, there's a TikTok trend or an online trend where people are jumping out of the attics of people's houses, and it's all staged, but this woman finds her son telling her that there's someone living in their attic, and it just follows the progression of all of this and them trying to figure it out, and they start kind of seeing things and being sent videos and stuff, and it's just really, really creepy. I really liked it. I thought I had it sussed. I thought I knew who it was, and then I didn't. And then it's just brilliant. I think that Andrea will always keep you guessing. She has a great talent for that. So yeah, really enjoyed it.
Great. I was the same. I thought I knew what was going on, why things were happening or who was doing whatever, and I didn't.
I thought it was very, very good.
I didn't.
And do you know what? I love Andrea's writing. I adore it. But the one issue that I have is that they are so addictive, her books, that the book is released, you get it or like on a pre-order or on release day or whatever, and then you sit down and you have it read in less than 24 hours, and then we have to wait a whole year for the next one. And I'm like, I just have to devour them, because there's no way that you could put this book down and come back to it and read a small bit tomorrow and then a small bit the next day. It's just impossible.
And actually, something we should ask the next author we speak to is, like, obviously they spend so long writing, like we know from talking to, any of the authors that they spend a certain amount of time doing their writing, and then there's edits, and then there's copy edits, and like there's so much before the book ever gets to us. Would they prefer us to like devour it in a day, having, considering they have spent the best part of a year probably at least, writing it or thinking about it for the most part, or would they prefer us to kind of take it in smaller chunks?
I think myself, as an aspiring author, and I say that with a bit of sarcasm there, even though I would obviously love to write a book someday, and I have started, I'm working away, I think that I would love for for a book to be unputdownable, because I think it's a sign of a great writer.
That's the kind of book you want to write, so.
Yeah. Will I ever get there? I don't know. We shall see. Yeah.
So my question for you is, what books are you really, really looking forward to reading this autumn?
Right. I have two that come to mind straight away. The first one is a young adult book. I started a book club in school this year, and we all voted on our first book on Friday at our first meeting, and it is called Cinderella is Dead. Have you heard of it?
Something's ringing a bell, but I'm not sure what it is or what it's about.
Yes, it looks really good. And to be fair, one of the students that joined the book club was saying that she's already read it, but she was like, I will read that book again. She was like, that is an excellent book. So this is the cover, if I can just zoom in slightly.
Oh, I have seen that. Yeah.
So it was Fiona, who we interviewed last season, Leafenbauer, that recommended this, because I just went in and I asked her, what books would you recommend for a kind of a teenager's book club? And this was one of the ones that she picked up. And it actually fits one of our prompts for our reading challenge for 2024. It is a fairy tale, a retelling of a fairy tale. So obviously it's about Cinderella. And the whole idea behind it is that it's 200 years after Cinderella met the prince. But the fairy tale is over. So this is the blurb now. I thought it was a brilliant blurb. I was like, I want to read that book. Teen girls are now required to appear at the annual ball where the men of the kingdom select wives based on a girl's display of finery. If a suitable match is not found, the girls not chosen are never heard from again. 16-year-old Sophia would much rather marry Aaron, her childhood best friend, than parade in front of suitors. At the ball, Sophia makes the desperate decision to flee and finds herself hiding in Cinderella's mausoleum. There she meets Constance, the last known descendant of Cinderella and her stepsisters. Together they vow to bring down the king once and for all, and in the process they learn that there's more to Cinderella's story than they ever knew. This fresh take on a classic story will make readers question the tales they've been told and root for girls to break down the constructs of the world around them.
That sounds fantastic. Like, I recognise the cover, but I don't think I'd ever actually looked at what it was about. Yeah. It sounds brilliant. I would totally read that as well.
Can I join your book club?
You can, yeah. So, yeah, that would be my first one, and I'm really looking forward to that. But I don't think I'll be reading that until the end of October, maybe, just before midterm break, so that I'll keep it fresh in my mind. But I really want to read it now. Like, it's one that I'd say you'd fly through. And then the second book that I am looking forward to reading is another one that was given to me by my friend Fiona. And guess what it's about?
Walks.
Yes! So it's called A Walk in the Woods. She was like, I think you'll really like this. And I read the blurb at the back, and I think I'm going to love it. You're laughing at me.
Well, no, I'm actually laughing because I know, like, for me, any book that has the mention of bookshop, library in the title, I'm like, I just want to read it. I don't care what it's about. I want to read it. So I get it. That's what I'm laughing at. I'm like, that's your thing, similar to my thing. So I get it.
Yeah. Like, I feel like a bit of a fraud because I don't go on big long hikes and stuff anymore, you know? I've done a couple and I've loved them, and I love being outside. I love nature. I love camping. I love all that kind of crack. But I think I've always wanted to do the Camino.
Okay.
I would love to walk the Camino. So I think that by reading about other people doing these kind of pilgrimage type walks kind of fills that void for me, because there's no way I'm going to be doing the Camino in the next 5 or 6 years.
Another chapter does the Camino next summer?
Yeah.
Summer after?
Absolutely. So this one is by Bill Bryson, and it is about the longest continuous footpath in the world. The Appalachian Trail stretches across the east coast of the United States from Georgia to Maine. So, yeah, they set off on a hike on that trail, and it just looks really good. It's also been made into a film, which I had never heard of, but I will be watching after I've read it. So that is another one that I'm looking forward to. And I think there's one more, if you don't mind me.
Yeah, work away.
The third book is one that was all over my Bookstagram feed last September, October, and I didn't read it, and I wanted to read it. It's an autumnal book, The Pumpkin Spice Cafe. Have you read it?
I haven't, but again, I've heard of it.
Yeah, it's just been everywhere, and I love autumn. It's my favourite season, and I just think it could be a nice, light, happy read. So yeah, they are my three that I will pick for my most anticipated reads of autumn.
Love it. Yeah. Very good.
What about you?
I have two in particular. One is by an author who was our very first, our very first read-along book, Jodi Picoult's new one, and just look at the cover. Like, look at that cover. It is beautiful.
That's unreal.
It is gorgeous. And it was just, I actually didn't even realise this was coming out until relatively recently, like in the last month or 6 weeks. I was online pre-ordering another book, and this happened to be under the pre-orders as well. I went, oh my God, pre-order straight away. So I have that pre-ordered. But again, talking about like interesting blurbs, the start of this one, because I had no idea what it was about. So it's called By Any Other Name, and it is, what if the greatest writer of all time isn't who we think it is? What if he isn't even a he? Step back 400 years and discover the female author who hid behind the mask of the man we know as William Shakespeare. So it's set between Elizabethan times, Elizabethan London, Shakespeare's era, and modern day Manhattan.
Ooh.
And I suppose the similarities between both, and kind of women's struggle to find their place in the world, and so on. So I think that sounds brilliant, and that's out relatively soon. And the second one is just out, and I actually started listening to it already, but I'm still going to include it. Is called The Glassmaker, and it's by Tracy Chevalier.
Oh,
She of Girl with the Pearl Earring fame. I love her writing. I love her writing. I would read anything she writes. So again, this was actually what I went on to pre-order, and then I saw the Jodi Picoult one. So this arrived in the last couple of days, but I was actually lucky enough to get an advance audio copy from NetGalley as well. So I'm listening to the audio, and I have the book as well, but it is stunning. It's set in it starts in Venice in 1486. It's in Murano, the island in Murano that's famous for their glass making. And our main character is Ursula. So it's like, I thought it was Ursula for ages in the audio, just as she was pronouncing it funny, but it's with an O. So Ursula Rosso, and her place in the family of glassmakers and how she kind of finds her footing. What's really interesting about it is it basically time skips. So our characters stay the exact same, and in their life only like, is it, I think 4 years or 6 years or 8 years passes between each section. But it's like, the way she describes it is like a stone skimming on the water. So the first stone starts in Venice in the 1400s. The next stone is like in Venice, but it's like during the plague, which was like 1570s. So we still have our Russo family, but they've only aged like 8 years. But the Venice that they're living in changes around them. So like our main character and all the people she knows only age kind of a small bit as the story progresses. But the world around them changes. So I'm at the stage now where we're just after getting to World War One, Venice. I did not realise this was the case because literally I ordered this just based on the fact it was who it was writing it. And I was listening, and next thing it mentioned like 1571 in the audio, and I was like, oh, wait a second. I was like, this definitely was like, you know, the 1400s a while ago. Yeah. And I had to go back, and then when the book came, I checked it as well. She explains it very well in the book, like basically how time is so fluid, and the setting is changing quite a lot, i.e. the time of the setting is changing. Our characters aren't changing that much, is I suppose the way she kind of describes it. But it's really interesting, and obviously it looks at then how a woman's role in a family like this kind of changes down throughout history, and how different events outside of our control, like the events of the wider world, can have an impact on our small family circle as well. Okay. So it's and all based around the concept of glass making. And Chevalier does that really well. Like Girl with the Pearl Earring was about Rembrandt and a particular painting of his. There was another one about a woman who found fossils on the beach, like on the coast of England. We had one about kind of stitch working and like making the cushions and things for churches, like embroidery or something. Embroidery, yeah, actually is probably what I'm trying to say. But she takes these topics, and like she goes into so much gorgeous detail, but not in a really overwhelming way, in a way that you can really feel like you understand what she's describing, and she does it really beautifully. Yeah. So I love how she writes. So she takes one art form to inspire another one, essentially. Pretty much, yeah. That's actually a lovely way of putting it. Yeah. Like most of her books revolve around an art form. So there you go. Yeah.
Yeah. That whole time jumping thing now, I have to say, I find that a little bit off-putting. So I'm looking forward to hearing what you...
I'm really enjoying it. I think I make it sound stranger than the way it's written. She does it really, really well. Like, I suppose the best way to put it was like what I said a while ago. It's just like the setting changes, that's all.
Yeah.
But as well, like, instead of the setting being the place, like, which we would be quite used to, like, if we were reading a book normally and it went from Ireland to America to New Zealand, you'd be like, yeah, okay, grand. But instead of it being the setting place-wise, it's just the setting time-wise is what's changing. But our characters stay the same, and it's how their lives evolve as the world around them is changing. It works a lot better than I make it sound.
I suppose my brain is kind of going, logically, that does not happen. So how could she make a book work that way? But as you say, like, Chevalier is brilliant. Yeah. So I'd say she could take a piece of dirt and make it good. Like, yeah.
I'd read it. I would read it. So yeah, they were the two that I was most looking forward to. Mm-hmm. And one has arrived already, which makes me very happy. But yeah.
I'm looking forward to the Jodie Picoult book as well, actually. Like, that's something that I think is going to be brilliant. I think Jodie Picoult was excellent, and then she kind of fell off my radar for a while, and then with Mad Honey, I think that I was like, oh my God, like, amazing. So I am very much looking forward to picking up a new release by her again, and see how that goes. But it's a very interesting concept too, because so many ideas... I was actually watching something recently and they were saying, like, so many inventions were originally invented by women who weren't being given the credit for it because a man put his name to it or whatever. Like, they weren't taken seriously and he got all the credit for it. So...
And even with teaching, like, when I teach Shakespeare to leaving certs or whatever, like, I do, when I be doing the background kind of him, I do bring up the fact that some of his work is, a lot of his work is disputed. Like, you know, many historians will argue that he wasn't in fact the author of all or certain pieces of his work, and why they think that, and how it's hard to know. And, you know, it just adds to, I suppose, the kind of the intrigue about his work and so on. So it's like, it's not a new concept, but I love the angle she's taking on it.
Yeah. I like how both your most anticipated reads are both an exploration of gender.
And actually it was only when I was talking about the Tracy Chevalier one that I realised that as well.
Yeah.
Totally unintentional, because as I said, I hadn't a notion what the Tracy Chevalier one was about, except the fact that it was about someone making glass, like. And obviously we have our September read, which looks really good as well.
Yes, All the Colours of the Dark by Chris Whittaker. I've started it. I'm about 30 chapters in and it is really, really good. I think that I wasn't sure. I've never read any of his books before, and this one is about a missing child. And I just think that I was kind of going, oh God, I don't know, I wanted to read it, but I was like, I don't know, will I enjoy reading it? But there's a couple of, like, I'm going to say red herrings, because I don't know whether they're true or not as of yet, that have kind of been scattered in so far. And I am like, is anyone going to take that seriously? I'm looking forward to seeing where this goes. Yeah. Have you started it?
I haven't. No, I have it. I have it on audio ready to go. I also got the ebook of it because it was on offer there in the last week or so. So I'm all geared up to go. But like that, I've a couple of books kind of on the go at the moment that I am actively trying to get through. Will I call out the blurb for anyone that maybe hasn't heard of it? Mm-hmm. A missing persons mystery, a serial killer thriller, and an epic love story with a unique twist on each. Late one summer, the town of Montclair is shattered by the abduction of local teenager Joseph Patch Macaulay. Nobody more so than Saint Brown, who is broken by her best friend's disappearance. Soon she will eat, sleep, breathe, only to find him. But when she does, it will break her heart. Patch lies in a pitch black room all alone for days or maybe weeks, until he feels a hand in his. Her name is Grace, and though they cannot see each other, she takes him from the darkness and paints their world with her words. In this hopeless place, they fall in love. But when he escapes, there is no sign she ever even existed. To find her again, Patch charts an epic search across the country, And to set him free, Saint will shadow his journey on a darker path to hunt down the man who took them, even if finding the truth means losing each other forever.
Oh, I hadn't read the blurb.
Oh, hadn't you?
No, I go in blind. I try to go in blind as much as I can with our read along books.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah.
I had no idea. No, it sounds like it's going to be fantastic, though.
Sorry if I've ruined it for you now.
No,
I assumed you had. Sorry. For this one, I'm just seeing a load online. Most people saying like it's amazing. I know some people are like saying, you know, potential book of the year already, and then there was a handful of people saying that it was grand, but it wasn't like mind blowing. So it'd be interesting to see what side we kind of fall on with it. But you're interested so far anyway.
Yeah, I am. Someone that I know said that they absolutely adored it, and then someone else said that it was grand. It was okay. Like, nah, it's fine, you know. So and she didn't say any more because she didn't want me to be biased going into it. But yeah, so far I am intrigued. I like how it has started, and it's kind of started from the child's perspective, I think, as well. Like what you were saying about Pet, that, you know, her friend has gone missing and she's begging people to help her, and they're kind of like, let it go, let the grown-ups deal with it.
Okay.
So yeah, it'll be good, I'd say. Yeah.
Very good. So we are going to be chatting about that on Friday the 27th of the month. If people start by the 19th, that gives them a week, and we have done out a nice little handy breakdown of how much you need to read per day. The chapters are very short, aren't they?
Yes, they are. And because when you sent the schedule to me, Rebecca made the schedule, I was like, 30 chapters in a day. I was going, oh my God, like I wouldn't be able to read 30 chapters in a day now. But they're quite quick. So yeah, you'd fly through it. And it is one that I think will keep you turning the pages anyway. And we have a lovely giveaway happening at the moment. It'll be over by the time this comes out, but someone will have won themselves a copy of the book. And it's a fine big book to win, to be fair.
Congrats to our winner, whoever you are.
Yeah, so on that note, we'd like to thank everybody for listening in to our first full episode back, and we're very excited for what season 3 has in store for us, and hopefully for you too. Slán.
Thank you so much for listening to this edition of Another Chapter podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, like and share to keep the book conversation going. Thank you to Helen Becerra for the graphics, Mark Neville for the mixing, and to each of our contributors. Music is Make It Work by All Good Folks.
Don't forget to follow along on Instagram at Another Chapter Podcast. We'll see you there.